What I found that if I happen to lubricate one of these, either up underneath the frog just a little bit to aid in its movement with the coil, that a lot of times what happens is I get the great movement from the coil. Electrically, it is moved from the coil mechanically and shifts back and forth. But I've now aided the train in the ability to move the frog. And this is how I've mitigated that. As I showed earlier, I have several, matter of fact, it could be every single switch on my layout. I have probably a Mylar shim in one end or the other. Now this is a fairly thick Mylar. It's by far thicker than what you find on the windows of, say, passenger coaches. But from this, I will cut a strip, something like this. They're kind of hard to handle. Something like this. I'll either insert it up under this end of the frog, between that and the platform, or the roadbed assembly, or I'll insert it up here. Now what that does is it slows down the movement of this when the trains come through, so that the trains can't possibly move it. However, it then allows the lubrication to kick in, and because this is smooth plastic, it doesn't allow that, it doesn't cause so much friction or pressure that the frog can't move, but just enough to hold it in place. And I can put it up under this and pinch it between these two rails, or I'll put it back here, pinch it between these two. I just have to play, trial and error. It is during this time, after I get it completely assembled and back on the layout, I begin the actual testing of the trains to see that, make sure that Alcos go in both directions on both rails, sets of rails, crossing the frog in both positions. Steamers from the heaviest, from the Northerns right down to the plastic Atlantics, the EP5s, everything back and forth to make sure everybody can negotiate this. And what I found, as I've already mentioned on the layout, is sometimes I have to do quite a bit of work to these rails, either to file them down from the top or the side. To do the filing, I usually use this 6-inch slim taper file. Works extremely well. It's a little awkward because I do this while it's on the layout in position, not on the table. And I either lay it across the rail here and slide it back and forth in short motion, lay it against the side, propping this up maybe a little bit, and then filing on the inside. If it's this way, same thing, I'll file on the inside. Same thing down here. If these points are too high or tips are too high, I have to file them down, just keep going back and forth over them. And I've probably spent more time doing that in combination with the Mylar that I insert up under these to act as a shim than anything else. But it has great returns. All of my switches, all 7 remotes, all 5 manuals work with every train I have in both directions, and I'm very pleased with that. But it wasn't without some trial and error once I got it on the layout. I don't know how these things get sometimes misshaped or end up in the wrong position. Some of them that I've been very disappointed in. This rail extends beyond this plastic tip so that it actually causes a collision with the wheel, or it becomes loose, or one or more of these rails sections are way too high. And I know that screw's there, but I don't rely on it to make the adjustments. I rely on this file to brush it down and take it down to the same level as the track. So basically I've got 12 switches that work extremely well in both directions across all locomotives, but that's been the methodology and the tools.